Welcome to the No Limit Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Sean Patton. And today you've got me. I'm doing a solo episode because we're talking about one of the hardest and most defining moments in a leader's career, taking over a new team. Right? This happens throughout our career. We're either moving into a new role, getting promoted, switching careers, whatever. You're going to take over a new role or a new team at some point. And how you do that, right? The first 90 days is critical to the long-term success. You can really set yourself back or you can set yourself up during that critical time period. I've recently been coaching a couple different clients through this. So I thought it was a good time, since it just happened to be coming into my life, to talk about it with all of my podcast listeners. So I've personally lived this moment many times. That's one thing about being a leader in the military, or this actually holds true with a lot of maybe larger, more traditional corporate structures, is that we would switch jobs, take over a new team every year, every 2 years, 3 years at the most. So you're taking over from someone very often. Or maybe our team would be deploying and we would take over an area, right? Like a battlefield area, an operational area from an outgoing unit, and we would take it over. So all these things apply. So I've just had to do this transition so many times that I refined this process, and I've continued to refine that process, not just from my time in the military and from the companies I've worked in, but from all the executives I've coached. So dozens of executives have gone through some form of this, and I've been able to refine this process throughout that, right? And of those people who did that, some of them thrived, some of them inspired trust, built momentum fast, and elevated everyone around them. Others struggled, right? They had skill, but they missed some of the subtleties, the human side of the transition, the mindset, the listening, the pacing. So today I want to go over what made the difference. Because again, how you take over that team will either set the foundation for success or maybe quietly sabotage it from the very beginning. Welcome to the No Limits Leadership Podcast. We discuss ancient wisdom, real-world experiences, and the latest concepts on mastering leadership of self and others. If you're committed to maximizing your life and your impact on the world, you're home. First, I want to start with the 5 biggest mistakes I see leaders make when taking over a team. Then I'll give you my 5 steps to do it right. And these steps come straight from my experience, the battlefield, the boardroom, and the coaching room. They're practical, repeatable, and they work. So let's get into it. All right. Mistake number 1 is trying to prove yourself too fast, right? You walk in and you maybe have some insecurity and you want to about, whether you deserve to be there or that you can do the job right or that everyone's going to like you and want to work with you and trust and respect you. And so you try to move too fast, right? You're thinking, I got to show them I belong here. And so you start trying to fix things before you even understand maybe the nuances or the complexity of what's going on, right? So you don't want to push change before you've earned trust, right? Slow this down a little bit. I recently had a client who did this exact same thing, who came in and was a younger, less experienced than people on their teams, which is very common. And so they came in and they just started trying to fix everything that they thought was wrong without getting a full lay of the land. And that can really cause some things to go awry. So, when you are someone that is confident and has power, sometimes going slower is better. Like slow down, stay calm. Like, Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer, always said, calm, assertive energy with dogs works. It works with people too. Show up calm and assertive, not sort of like frantic and feeling like you need to get validation. So mistake number 1 is trying to prove yourself too fast. Don't do that. You don't need to. Mistake number 2 is failing to prepare personally. Ooh, this is big. A lot of times, right, we're getting ready to take over a new team or we go into a new role or something else. And we're so worked up about trying to like wrap up the last thing and maybe research the new thing. And we're going. And we go into this new role that is going to require more energy. Like getting momentum on a new team and a new project is harder than something that's already going. This is going to take a lot of your time, energy, and effort. And so you want to make sure you're ready, right? Like internally, if you show up and you're already half burned out and filled with anxiety, like you can't pour from an empty cup. So when I mean prepare personally, I don't mean like over-researching everybody on the team and the history and all that stuff. I mean like preparing yourself internally so when you go into that, you're in peak form. Like you're ready to take over and give an unusual and unsustainable amount of energy to that team, right? So that means taking care of your physical health, your sleep, your diet, your exercise, making sure your family's on board, your relationships are good, because the first few months are going to demand, again, a lot more of you than maybe a more sustained rate. So one of my mentors, when I went into getting ready to go to Afghanistan, told me, you lead how you live, right? So if you live scattered with your stuff everywhere, you're going to lead scattered. If you live disciplined, you'll lead disciplined. If you make sure your house is in order first, that will come across as a leader. And, of course, if you have a strong sense of purpose and values, like your team will sense that too. So just remember that preparation isn't selfish, it's service. So mistake number 2, failing to prepare personally. Mistake number 3, not listening first. Listen first. Communication is by far and away the number one skill set differentiator between great leaders and poor leaders. And the first step in communication is not talking, it's listening. So sometimes leaders go in and they think they need to be the biggest personality in the room, and they need to motivate and inspire, and they need to show confidence, and they need to tell stories, and they need to, dominate the room in the conversation. And that's actually not the right thing to do. When you're new to any team, but especially if you're the leader, your first job isn't to talk, it's to listen. So, everyone on the team, every person already has a story behind them. They have a story about you. Your job is to learn about that story. They've been on a team long enough, one of your senior people, they've seen this manager or this director or this VP or this CEO, whatever, come and go. So you're new to the team, but they're not. The whole 2 ears in one mouth analogy works here, right? Let's listen twice as much as we talk. They're looking and trying to assess whether you're going to be one of the good ones or one of the bad ones. When you start with listening first, right? Here, tell me what's working. Tell me what's broken. Tell me how I can help. You're gathering information and you're actually building trust without having to, we're going to go to a second, without having to commit to anything, but just listen, right? One of my mentors, Ken Proctor, has a quote, which I'm going to butcher, but basically is that truly feeling heard and listened to is so rare that most people can't differentiate between that and being loved. Like when someone stops and actually listens intently to what you're saying and they care, they're not distracted, it feels like love. And not to get off tangent, but leadership is love. So, trust is the currency inside leadership, and you get that by listening first. Okay, mistake number 4, making promises too early. Ooh, this is one that hits, man. Gosh, again, you're in a rush to sort of prove yourself and make people see that you take action and that you're going to do what you say and you've got answers. And so you walk in and someone brings up an issue to you and you're like, oh, well, we can fix that. We'll change that. No problem. I got you. And you don't understand that maybe you can't change it, or maybe you really don't want to change it, or really changing it negatively impacts other people on the team or on a different team or a different department or your bottom line or whatever, right? Like no promises. Like, man, I cannot emphasize this enough. When you first get into a new role, take over a team, hire someone new, anything, make no promises. All right. Just listen. Like, oh, that's interesting. I can get back to you on that. That's a great idea. Right. Let me ask around and get more information on that, or send me more information on that. Okay. Don't rush to feel like you have to make promises. We'll do this subconsciously. You'll be like, oh, no problem. We can fix that. And you won't even mean to. And to that person, you just made a commitment. And now they're going to hold you to it. And if you break your commitment to them, that's the first experience they have of you, is you breaking a commitment to them. Mistake number 5, ignoring culture, right? Culture is not something you can just walk in and be like, oh, I got the vibe. I know what this company's all about. I know what this team's all about from the one time you walk in, or even if you were in another team and you kind of know their culture. Being around a team and being in and on a team, your perception of culture can be completely different. Or the culture can feel a lot different if maybe you got internally promoted and you were a team member, an individual contributor, and now you're the leader of 4 more peers. That's going to be a different culture. So, culture is how people behave. It's the default of when no one's watching, and there's unspoken rules. Maybe there's inside jokes. Maybe there's, emotional temperature inside the organization. There's a past grievances. There's people who maybe thought you weren't the best fit for the role, or thinks they should have been the leader, or it should have been you made your external hire and they thought it should have been an internal hire. And there's so much goes into culture. And so don't rush that. Right. I once took over a team that had been through the 3 leaders in 18 months. The processes were solid. The metrics looked fine, but underneath it, the culture with the people was broken. It was toxic. It was fearful. It had resentment. And so if you just came in and looked at, the processes, the workflows, the spreadsheets look great, but the culture needed to be fixed. And I needed to spend time figuring that out and start to fix it with consistency, clarity, and care. Culture is like trust. It's like integrity. You can't build it overnight, but it can be destroyed overnight, right? Trust, integrity, culture is impossible to build overnight. It must be built over time, but it can be broken in an instant with one bad decision. Just like trust and integrity, protect culture like it's your most valuable asset, because it really is. All right, so those are the 5 top mistakes people make when taking over a team. Let's go over them, one more time here, right? Trying to prove yourself too fast is mistake number 1. Mistake number 2, failing to prepare personally. Mistake number 3, not listening first. Mistake number 4, making promises too early. And mistake number 5, ignoring culture. All right, so we're not going to do any of those things, right? Let's talk about what to do. And the order of these steps is important, right? So these steps I've used leading soldiers, building businesses, and coaching executives and having them implement them. They're practical, they're universal, and I believe they're timeless. So this goes along with one of our mistakes. Step number 1 to take over the team happens before you actually step in the room, and it's prepare yourself first. Before you take charge of anyone else, you must take charge of yourself. You know that, I am this self-leadership guy. And if you didn't know that, now you do. My whole concept around leadership is that you must master leading yourself before you can effectively lead other people. And the journey to becoming the leader that you're truly capable of is the path to becoming the greatest version of yourself. It's all about leadership, but you have to learn how to lead yourself first. And this takes constant work. Right? This is about your mindset, your body, your focus. Abraham Lincoln had a quote that said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." And he wasn't talking about trees. He was talking about preparation. So, I like to think of there's 4 pillars of health. Let's talk physical health first. So sleep, check episode 94. Just came out 2 weeks ago with Molly Eastman. We just did a whole episode on sleep and really in depth. But I think sleep's the backbone of almost your entire health and life existence. So lock down your sleep, okay? Get that figured out. The second is going to be hydration, right? We chronically dehydrated. And as I say that, I'm going to take a drink. Chronically dehydrated in this country, caffeine, sodas, just not drinking water. I have a firm belief that if you don't have, what millennials effectively or affectionately call emotional support water bottles, you're probably dehydrated. I know I am. Like if I don't actually physically carry around my water bottle as a reminder and I track how many of these bad boys I have a day, I'm probably dehydrated. You are too. So hydrate or die, as they say in the military. All right. The third one is nutrition, right? Get your nutrition locked in, right? We're not preparing for an Ironman, but this is not the time to start eating fast food every day or having a bunch of sugars or getting your diet all jacked up. Okay. You are what you eat. This is your fuel. Get it right. And without going into all the fads and diets and everything else you can do, just eat whole food. Cook your food. If you get whole ingredients from the outside of the grocery store, produce, vegetables, fruits, meats, and you cook them and you eat what you cooked, you're probably good. Outside of that, you can get yourself in trouble. And then the last one is activity. So the 4th pillar. So hydration, nutrition, and activity. So that just means being active, working out, whatever that looks like for you. Right? So your mental and physical health are 100% independent. They work together. You can't have one without the other. You're preparing yourself. Think about this. If you're preparing yourself for, I do jiu-jitsu, for a jiu-jitsu tournament or for a race, a competition or some other physical endeavor or a long hike or a camping trip or a hunt, whatever else, you prep yourself before that. You don't just walk in and be like, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow, right? You have a train up. Think of this as your train up. It's, even if you're already pretty good, now's the time to lock it in. Because again, these first few months in leadership should take an unsustainable amount of energy. You should be putting extra effort into this first 90 days. Okay. And then on top of that, setting one of the most important aspects of your environment, mental health and self-discipline environment is the people you spend time with. So studies show us that so let's talk about the people you spend time with, all right? Your relationships. You really want to get those things strong and get yourself surrounded by the people who are supporting who you're trying to become, not people who are holding you back because you're getting ready to step up to a new level of leadership. Study after study shows us that we will rise or fall to the standard of our circle. Harvard psychologist David McClellan said that he's found that the people we habitually spend time with dictate up to as much as 95% of our success or failure in life. 95%, based on who we habitually associate with. There's a recent book I just read called What We Value. It's by Emily Falk, who's a researcher out from Penn. And she found that we assign a social relevance score in our brain to people we spend time with. Really interesting research, putting fMRIs on people's brains and seeing as they interact in different social groups and with their friends. And what she found is that our brains we spend time with people over time, our brains start to rewire themselves. Like the actual brain signals start to be the same as the people. So you're having the same thoughts and the brain's working the same way with the people you spend time with. So your brain is literally rewiring itself to match those you spend time with. So be very intentional with the people that you choose to give your time to, whose opinions you consider, and make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are aligned with who you're becoming, who your aspirational self is, not people who are trying to hold you back. So get yourself ready. Step 2, information is power. Okay, so on this one, hopefully you know a little bit about the organization or the team, the new position before you took the role, but now it's time to really get real, like get your hands dirty. Okay. So there's a few components of this information is power. Like in special forces, we never stepped off for a mission without some intelligence, some information, and leadership is no different. So you want to know a few things. You want to know the mission, right? What is the mission of your company? What is the mission of this team? Like what is it trying to accomplish? And is that aligned with how it's lived and operates daily? So mission, you want to know the bigger picture. How does your team's work connect with other teams up, down, and across the organization? People, you want to start finding out who are your formal and informal influencers. The week I just talked about Molly Eastman podcast, episode 94. Episode 93 was our husband, Blake. And we had a really interesting conversation. He talked about when he goes into a company, he tries to map the real org chart. We have the organizational charts on flow graph with dotted and straight lines that says, how the company is supposed to run, like how authority passes through the company and who's in charge of who. But we all know there's people who have more influence than their title maybe dictates. That actually just happened with a recent client. There's a member of his team who's been on the team and doing this for 20, 25 years. That person is an internal, informal power broker. And so we had a whole conversation about trying to bring him under the fold, make him a trusted advisor, make him feel welcomed, that his input is valued, because if you get those types of people on your team and you listen to them, and that can really help you as you try to navigate the dynamics of the team. And, maybe figure out not just your people, but also figure out why you were brought in. So find out, is your main job to grow this team? Maybe it's a team that's functioning very well and has for a long time, and it's a high performing team, and your job is to just, pour gasoline on the fire and watch this thing go, baby, right? Like that sounds great. Is it a broken team that you came in to fix? Do you need to stabilize it? Is it kind of disjointed? Why is that? Are you being brought in to transform this team? Maybe it's a new mission or a new function or a new task, or maybe you're bringing two departments together and your job is to do that. Like the context of that changes everything. So you didn't just inherit like a job as an individual contributor and like, here are my metrics to as long as I do these things, I will be successful. As a leader, it's more complicated. You need to investigate why you were brought there, because it's going to be really hard to lead and do things the right way if you don't understand sort of the intent of where this team is and where you're trying to take it. Okay. So get the information is step 2. Step 3 is what I call the 1/3 rule. So very simply label it 1/3 of the time listening, 1/3 of the time getting feedback, and then 1/3 to implement. So in general, I would say 90 days is about the right time. So 30 days, the first 30 days is spent in listening. It's asking questions, taking notes. Again, we're not rushing to change anything. The best thing you can do is, it's funny, one of the best ways you can build trust with people and have sort of natural charisma, have people drawn to you, want to follow you, is to just shut up and listen. Just shut up and listen. Ask good questions. Take notes. That builds relationships, right? So hear what other people have to say and just take a bunch of notes. And then you can start mapping, are you getting a common picture? Like, does everyone see this, or do most people see this, the strengths, the weaknesses of this team, the mission, all these things? Do they see it the same? Or do some people think the team's going great? Other people think the team really sucks. And like, why is that? Do some people see one thing as the main priority and other people see things as a different priority? Okay, so we've got to listen to figure that out. Okay, then once you do that, you have data. You can come up with some initial ideas. So the next 30 days is, again, don't promise anything, but the next 30 days is to give and get feedback. Hey, informally, pull people aside or have little meetings. Hey, I know you mentioned that this was a problem, and I heard that from several people on the team. And one of the suggestions that you gave was to do X, right? To change the schedule, to get new equipment, whatever it is. And I heard that from a few other people. I was wondering if we did it this way, what do you think about it? Right? So you can take and test your ideas without being committal. You're not committing to anything, but just getting feedback on some initial ideas on what the priorities for this team should be moving forward. Right? So you're getting feedback on your initial concept and trying to prove out, like, does your understanding of the team dynamics, understanding of where the team is and where it's trying to get to, understanding of how different people function and what they think their priorities are, what the strengths and weaknesses are, does that align? Like, you can feel that out with the team. So that's the second third, right, is feedback. And then you have implementation. Okay, so this is where we're looking for quick, easy wins. Okay, so quick, easy wins aren't on day one. They're on, day 61 to 90. You've listened, you've created an initial plan, you've got some feedback on that. Now you start looking for easy wins to build trust. Okay. You want to look for things that are high impact, that are low risk, that'll build credibility fast. Okay. Don't go for big swings early. Don't go for big changes early. The first 90 days, you shouldn't be doing any of that. These are times to make little tweaks that are, if you've got some unanimous feedback that this one little change would be good for the team, would make a huge impact, make that one little change now. And then show them that, because what you were trying to prove here is that when you get feedback, you will consider it and you will do something with it, because then they'll want to give you more feedback. And if you got feedback that you haven't taken action on, and maybe you don't plan on taking action on, let them know that too. Hey, a lot of people mentioned that the way we're doing our status updates doesn't work for them, or it takes too much time. Unfortunately, I looked into it, and because of the software that our HR department uses, we're stuck with this right now, but they're looking at bigger solutions in the future. Just the fact that the people on our team knew that you listened and you checked on it, and then you gave them feedback. So they didn't just think they gave feedback, they just went up into the ether that they'll never see again, will build trust with your people. Okay. So win early, win small, win smart. Step 4, initial counseling. Okay. So you've done a bunch of initial meetings with people. Now you get to do initial counseling with each person, or, initial coaching session, or whatever you want to call it, one-to-one. And this is where you're having an individualized conversation where, hey, we've had a couple conversations. Here's what I'm hearing from you. And together, let's make a plan on what are your priorities, almost looking at, especially for initial counseling and one-to-ones, what matters to them. Too often as leaders, we assume that what matters to us matters to the people below us. And we think that the most important thing is their compensation or their title or whatever, their support. But it could be something else, right? Some people may be in a stage of life where flexibility is really important. For some people, maybe it's, my life would be so much better if I get out of here at 3:30 instead of 4. Okay, let's solve for that. Maybe come in a half hour early or whatever, right? Like, there's other things that can matter to them. Maybe it's growth, right? For your high performers that want to rise, study after study shows us they value growth and development over compensation. They want to know, where am I headed in this company? How am I going to get better? How am I going to progress in my career? And if you don't know that and can't map that out with them, you're going to start to lose, trust and engagement with. So this is your time to have a one-on-one conversation that is dialed into that individual, not just generalized conversations about like what the team's doing. So what is their role? What are they happy about? What are they not happy about? What are their personal priorities? And then how do we align that with company or organizational priorities, right? How do we make it so that when the company wins, they win? And then you make a commitment to help support them in that plan. And that's what you do at initial counseling. Okay, that's the thing you do right after, at the end of the 90 days. Okay, you want to get to know your people Personally, leadership is a personal business. It's a human business. It's a relationship business. And again, put those commitments. This should be in writing that you both get a copy of, you both sign. And part of that should be, okay, moving forward the next 90 days, here are the things as your leader, as your manager, as your supervisor, as your director, or whatever. Here's how I'm going to support you. I'm making a commitment to do these things. And you're making a commitment to do these things. And in doing that, we hope to accomplish these goals. So initial counseling, one-on-one, initial one-on-one, whatever you want to call it. Finally, step 5, communicate your vision. Okay, you've listened, you've learned, you've connected. Now it's time to lead. Okay, this is where, this is right around that 90-day mark, right as you're doing initial counseling toward the end of 90 days. And as you're getting ready to transition from this transformation phase of you taking over. And you want to communicate 2 things. Okay, you want to communicate 2 things. One is your leadership philosophy. This should be an all-encompassing single document that's based on your values and your principles. It should be easy to read, understand, and communicate. It should list your guiding principles, maybe that you want your team and junior leaders to espouse. It helps others make value-based decisions in your absence. And if you're not around to ask what to do, they should be able to go back to your leadership philosophy document and be like, well, based on this, I think Sean wants us to do this. Okay. And you want to make it personal to you and your experiences. Don't just have ChatGPT write this thing for you or steal a bunch of talking points from, John Maxwell or Simon Sinek. Okay. Like it shouldn't read like every meme they've seen, like a collection of memes on their Instagram feed. Okay. It should be conveying your personality and your values. Okay. And you want to talk about this leadership philosophy in every meeting, every time. They should reflect on this document, reflect on this document. And I would encourage you right now, even if you're not taking over a team, but you may in the future, which hopefully you will as you grow, like develop your own leadership philosophy document now. It's a living, breathing document that goes with you wherever you go. As you learn and you grow, you can update your own opinions and your own values and your own guiding principles, what matters to you and what doesn't. So in an ideal world, you have this thing that's like 80% done and you're just tweaking it based on what you've learned about this season of life and this team. Okay. Every leader should have a leadership philosophy document. All right. And the second thing, I said there's 2 things. One, your leadership philosophy. You're going to share that with the team so they know what matters to you. Here are the things that are non-negotiable to me, right? Like integrity, lying, cheating, stealing, infidelity in your relationship, whatever it is, whatever that matters most to you, whatever is sort of non-negotiable, lay that out now. Lay your ground rules, right? Here are the things I value. Open communication, open trust. Maybe it's direct communication. Let's not beat around the bush. Listen, we all are adults. We want to talk, but not talk about people. If there's a problem, we're not talking about an individual. We're talking about a problem. We're 2 people focused on solutions. So we're going to be solution focused, but we're going to be direct communicators. We're not going to beat around the bush. We're not going to try to make everyone feel warm and fuzzy. We're going to solve the problem because we need to be direct here. This is really important. Okay, craft leadership philosophy. What do you stand for and how are you going to lead? And the second thing is operational vision. So now this is where you get to lay out, 3 to 5 clear priorities. Right? If your team can't remember your operational priorities, you have too many. If you have 20 priorities for your team, if they can't list them out, they're not priorities. So 3 to 5, they can say, right now, here are top 3 to 5 priorities. And this is based on your 90 days of listening, gathering information, getting informal feedback, talking to your informal power brokers, adjusting that based on what you hear, right? Your one-to-ones, all those things feed into, this is my plan now, and we're going to execute. And hopefully you have buy-in now because it's fed by information by the team. You've floated around. There shouldn't be any surprises here. This should all sound, for the most part, good to them. Or you should be able to explain why it's an operational priority, even if you have people that disagree with it. Hey, I know this makes it harder on us, or it doesn't make, in our division, it doesn't make sense to do this from a sales perspective, but it's part of a larger marketing plan the company's invested in, and here's how it fits in the bigger picture, right? You want to make sure that you're clear, right? When I coach executives, I remind them that clarity creates confidence. Okay. People don't hate change. Maybe you heard they do. I'm telling you, they don't. Change is constant. People don't hate change. They hate ambiguity. So the more clear you are with your people about the why, the more empowered they will feel to act without you, right? Because great leadership isn't about micromanagement and control. It's about clarity. It's about empowerment, right? You empower them give them freedom within this framework to say, here are your decisions. Inside this box, this is my intent. Inside this box, I want you to make decisions and move forward. You don't want to be the bottleneck, but if you don't communicate your leadership philosophy, what you value, what your guiding principles are, and how you want decisions made, and then also have clear operational priorities of what matters to you and why and how we want to do things, that allows your team to go forth and conquer, right? For them to execute. Okay. Let's talk about let's just review those 5 and then we'll wrap here. So, step 1, right? There's 5 steps to successfully taking over a team. Step 1, prepare yourself first. Step 2, information is power. Go get it. 3, the 1/3 rule. 1/3 of the time listening, 1/3 getting feedback, 1/3 implementing. Okay. Step 4 is initial counseling or initial coaching session, initial one-to-one. Right, this is a personalized session that's not about big company stuff. It's about the individual, and we're aligning what matters to them, their goals, with company goals. And 5, you're going to communicate your vision. You're going to communicate your leadership philosophy and your operational vision with your 3 to 5 clear priorities. Okay, so those are the 5 steps taking over a team. It's the 1/3 rule because it could change a bit, right? Like it matters. We talked about at the beginning of this, like knowing what you were brought in to do. If this is like a sinking ship and it's all broken, maybe this is a 30-day plan, like 10 days, 10 days, 10 days. Like it's time to go, right? If everything is going great and you're hitting record numbers, like maybe spread this thing out. Do listen more. There's no need to start making big changes, right? Just say, hey, next 6 months, no change. We're going to keep rolling with this. I'm going to really take some time and dig in to see what the next step is for us, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a 1/3 rule for a reason, and it's a ratio for a reason. So you don't need to rush, right? Don't rush to prove yourself. Pair your mind, body, and relationships before you start. Make sure you gather intelligence before you make moves. Listen deeply, act deliberately, build trust through real connection, and communicate a vision that inspires. Because we're not talking about management here, right? Management is about authority, and authority can be given. It's what you've been given. But what's going to make you successful is leadership, and leadership is about influence, and influence must be earned. So when you do this right, you transform the fear into trust, the chaos into clarity, and you take a group of individuals to make a unified team. Right? You stop managing, you start leading. Just like an individual, as you start mastering self-leadership, you move from surviving to thriving. And that's what we're all about here at No Limit Leadership. That's what I'm all about, is becoming the kind of leader who lifts others higher. So if this episode resonated with you, if it was helpful, share it with another leader, right? Who's about to take over another team, or maybe because they're a no limit leader and they're going to be moving up, or they're eventually going to. Maybe it's time to start writing your leadership philosophy, right? Maybe that's your first step, even if you're not taking over a team. Thank you for listening to this. If you are enjoying No Limit Leadership, this podcast and the guests I have on it, support us by sharing with a friend, subscribing. All that does so much. We have some great momentum behind this podcast, and we are on a J curve in terms of growth. I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. So until next time, challenge limits, develop leaders, fuel greatness. Thanks for being a part of the No Limit Leadership family. This isn't just a podcast. We're building a movement of no limit leaders driven to unlock our greatness and lead the world forward. If this made you think or gave you something useful, please, 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 right now, go hit follow and then share it with one leader you believe in. Challenge limits, develop leaders, fuel greatness.